Good morning. Thank you so much, Yaakov. Let me start with a personal note. I am 9 months in New York City, and I think there is no greater privilege than to represent the capital of the world, Jerusalem, to the city that for some reason believes it's the capital of the world, New York. And in a more serious note, I would say now seriously that it's a tremendous honor and privilege to be appointed by Prime Minister Netanyahu to represent the Jewish state to the largest Jewish diaspora. In this conference, we will hear about a myriad of topics related to Israel. I would like, as a kind of introduction, to very briefly, of course, later my colleagues will elaborate, very briefly to touch three of them: security, Israeli diplomatic relations, and the economy of Israel. I think that in most of them I have good news. I would even say very good news. Yes, we have security threats. The first and foremost, as you know exactly as much as I do, is Iran. But I must say this: the fact that now, after a few years in which the situation was completely different, the United States of America and the State of Israel see eye to eye the dangers posed by Iran, see eye to eye the deficiencies of the nuclear agreement signed with Iran, the fact that Israel and the United States of America have a common view, an almost exact view of the situation, that is a strategic change. Obviously, that doesn't mean that we already formulated a common policy. I don't know if we will formulate a common policy. I hope we will. It is a process that will take weeks and months, but the starting point is extremely encouraging. I must also add in this respect that you heard, I am sure, a few weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, two apparently contradicting news. The first one, that Iran complies with the agreement that was written in a letter by the State Department to Congress. And the second, the following day, by Secretary of State Tillerson, a harsh indictment of Iran's behavior and the nuclear agreement. Those are not contradicting, not at all. Let me remind you what Prime Minister Netanyahu said in Congress. He said, and he was completely right, if I may say, that the nuclear agreement is bad if Iran violates it, but it's even worse if Iran complies with it, because of the possibility to break out into nuclear military capabilities in 12 years, and as you know, and if you know, you should know, that Israel has every intention to be around in 12, 50, and 500 years. Obviously, we have also a delicate situation in Syria. And I will say regarding Syria, because we have short time, only this. I am extremely proud to represent the only country on earth that extends humanitarian aid to Syrian citizens inside Syria. As we speak now and sit here comfortably in New York, young men and women, Israeli men and women, endanger their lives in order to help Syrians. And not even considering the fact that it's enemy territory or enemy citizens. We should be very proud of Israel. It's an example of Israel being a light unto the nations. The second brief point I want to make, my friends, is regarding Israel's current standing in the world. Yes, we have problems in Western Europe, mainly Northern Europe, Scandinavia, and we hear a lot about BDS, which is a total failure, you know. In some cases, I even would like BDS to be more successful, like by preventing Justin Bieber to perform in Israel, but unfortunately they didn't. He just performed there last week. And now, I would like to say this, and I say it unequivocally. Israel was never less isolated in the world than today. I could, if I had more time, would have taken you into a whirlwind tour of the world to prove that. I will also only mention, because of the limited time, I will mention two small countries, India and China. Together with Israel, India and China are 1/3 of the world population. And well, 25 years ago, we didn't have diplomatic relations with either one of them. Today, the relations with India, there is no other way to refer to them but as intimate. There is a staunch alliance with India. And you know, if you come to Israel and have breakfast in one of the Israeli hotels, that famous breakfast, the most iconic item that we'll find will be Tnuva cottage cheese. Actually, Tnuva cottage cheese today is Chinese, because the Chinese invested hundreds of millions of dollars in Tnuva. And vice versa, if you would have told me 25 years ago that simultaneously, the same week, Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, will be in Beijing, and the President of Israel in Hanoi, I would tell you that you are taking some stuff that you shouldn't. But that happened a month ago. And finally, I want to say a word about the economy of Israel. $15 billion. This is the amount that Intel Corporation paid for the Israeli firm Mobileye. And no less important than that was what the CEO of Intel told the Israelis when he came there to Jerusalem to sign. He said, for us, Intel Corporation is an Israeli company as much as it is an American company. Very bad news for BDS that without Intel, go back to the Stone Age. One of every $4 that are invested in cybersecurity go to an Israeli company. I just give you bullets. And the last one, I will tell you this. I remember when I made Aliyah back in 1971, and the Yom Kippur War was 2 years later, I remember vividly the headlines that said, Israel has foreign exchange reserves that are enough for 3 months of imports. If we do not get urgent loans, we will not have coffee, sugar, anything. Today, the Bank of Israel, our central bank, has foreign exchange reserves of the magnitude of $100 billion. I remember in the 80s, 400% inflation. Now tell me if that's not a miracle that the shekel is today the strongest currency in the world. Incredible. And I will conclude by saying this. Yes, we have problems of distribution of the wealth without deteriorating into socialism. We have our share of problems, of course, and please keep contributing to Israel. But I will say this. I saw African leaders watching Israeli high-tech companies that are one of the biggest careers of Israeli economy, seeing what Israel does for them in high-tech and their gratitude and appreciation. And again, I was extremely proud to be an Israeli. And to conclude, I will say this: we celebrated this week 69 years of Atzmaut, of independence. We have every reason to enter our 70th year with a great share of optimism. Thank you so much.